Hello, I'm Liam and welcome to my August allotment tour. On these tours I usually share what I've been doing over the last few weeks, but this tour will be a little different because I've been away. Instead I'm going to share what I did to prepare the plot, and more or less it seems to have worked. I'll also share what I hope to be doing over the next few weeks. So let's get started. Highlights of this month's tour include the tomatoes growing inside the Polytunnel, but there are also a couple of chilli plants and some cucumber plants. The Perpetual spinach and chard are still growing strongly. The winter squash is beginning to mature. It's been a bumper year for courgettes. French beans have been ready for harvest over the last few weeks. The garlic growing in this bed here has been harvested, as has been the new potatoes, which have been absolutely delicious. The main crop potatoes are also ready. The onions are doing well. The apples are swelling nicely now on the tree, and the elephant garlic is looking good. I'm also really pleased with the dahlias that are decorating the plot. What hasn't gone so well is the fruit cage, because somebody broke into it and unfortunately broke some of the supports holding the canes up. They got in through the doorway, but instead of carefully removing the net, they ripped it off from the top here. And then once inside, they walked through the row of canes by breaking the wire that was supporting them at the top and stepping over. Unfortunately, that's damaged the plants, and in doing so they did remove a large amount of fruit. But having said that, the fruit cage was a success. I did get a large amount of fruit off it myself, and I learned a couple of things. The first is I think I'm going to use wire around the fruit cage, probably some chicken wire. I think that will provide better protection, it's less easy to rip. And the second thing is I'm going to create walkways inside the fruit cage, so that if somebody does get inside, they can walk around more easily and not break the supports that are holding the plants up. That way I may lose the fruit, but I won't lose the plants. Starting the tour proper with the Polytunnel. Plants inside the Polytunnel need to be watered every day because of how hot it gets inside. It gets to about 50 degrees inside on hot days. To water the plants when I went away, I have these water butts outside. I've got 5 water butts in total. I've daisy chained them together, and inside one of them I've got a water pump that pumps up water through this hose here and then into a drip irrigation system that works on a timer. The whole system is powered by this solar panel that connects to a leisure battery, the kind of battery that is used by caravans, and that is what powers the pump. And the result has worked really well. When I came back, I was really pleased to arrive back to lots of ripe tomatoes, both regular tomatoes and cherry tomato types. I'm growing 3 main types this year. Sun Gold, which are orange cherry tomatoes. A variety called Chocolate Cherry. I'll just pick this one here to show. Again, that's another cherry type. And then a standard sized tomato which is called Premio. I'll pick this one here to show. That one's looking great. I also have my cucumber plants. Now these cucumber plants are looking worse for wear. You can tell by the yellowing of the leaves, and they're also quite brittle to touch, very dry to touch. These 2 plants are actually the cuttings that I took off plants that I grew from seed. And by doing that, it's extended the growing season. This could be the last cucumber I take for the season. There we go, looks a good one. And then next to the cucumber I have these 2 chilli plants. Well, actually 2 pots that contain 2 chilli plants each. And these have these lovely green chilies growing on them. They look ripe and ready for picking. The variety is called Cayenne. I'm really looking forward to trying them. I think they could be quite spicy this year because it's been really hot and sunny. The sunny conditions should really bring out their heat. When going away, what I try to do for my winter squash and my courgettes is to grow the plants as large as possible before I go away, because I find the leaf mass covers the ground and helps to stop the hot sun drying it out. Before I go away, I also give the plants a really good watering to make sure that the ground is nice and moist for them. It seems to have worked. The leaves are a little less green and more brittle to touch than before I went away, but overall I think the plants are in pretty good nick. And the fruit is swelling nicely on them. I've got one over here another one here, one at the back here, and a couple back here too, one at the front and one at the back there. So I'm really pleased with that. It's a similar story with the courgettes. There's some mould growing now on some of the leaves. That's simply a sign of the plant's aging. But there are some fruit still forming. I've got 2 down there and a few growing at the back here, including some flowers still forming. The extra step I did with the courgettes before going away was to move all the fruit that were forming on the plants. I did that because over a couple of weeks the fruit would have swollen to a really large size, and it also encourages new flowers to form. That worked because when I came back, the fruit that had regrown on the plants were ready to be harvested. A lovely surprise when coming back. I did exactly the same with the French beans. Before I went away, I picked as much fruit as possible to encourage more flowers and beans to form on the plants. Now, because French beans grow vertically, the ground is more exposed to the heat. And what that means is that the ground is more likely to dry out, but I gave the plants a really good watering before I went away and also when I came back. Given how hot it's been, I am surprised with how well the plants are doing. On many of the plants, the leaves are still a good colour, but a few are showing signs of dying back. But there are lots of French beans still forming over here. So with luck, I'm hoping to harvest French beans through August and perhaps into September too. I've really enjoyed the new potatoes I've grown this year. The variety was called Pentland Javelin, quite a light coloured, almost white coloured potato. To eat, I've really enjoyed boiling them and then covering them with a little olive oil. Absolutely delicious. New potatoes don't store particularly well, so alongside the new potatoes I've also grown main crop potatoes. The variety I've chosen to grow this year is called Picasso, and last year the potatoes I grew had a really delicious flavour. I have a couple of beds of them. I hope to dig up the potatoes through August. If it's too hot, I'll leave it till September, and then I'll box them up and store them in the shed. That way I hope the potatoes will last till Christmas and perhaps January and February too. One of the first jobs I did when I came back was to dig up my garlic. Because there's been so little rain, the bulbs had actually dried while still in the ground, so they're ready for storage now. It's really satisfying to take home a wheelbarrow full of garlic. Now, with my onions, I don't usually water them that much, but before I went away, I gave the bed a really good dose of water a couple of times in 1 week, and that seems to have done the trick. Some of the bulbs are a really good size. This bulb here is about the size of a tennis ball, as is the one alongside it. But a few of the bulbs are a little smaller. These two here are more golf ball size. Nevertheless, considering how dry it's been, I think I'm lucky to have a harvest at all. I also gave the elephant garlic a good watering before I went away. The other thing I had to do was that the elephant garlic started to grow scapes, which are the stems that lead to the flowers. There's typically 1 scape per plant, and all that's needed is to pick off the scape, and that way all the energy goes into developing the bulb and not into the flower. These plants are starting to yellow, so maybe towards the end of August they'll be ready for harvesting. The apple tree may look mature, but it's actually only a couple of years old. And because the tree is relatively young, over the last month I've given the tree a really good dousing of water about once a fortnight. Now, I don't know how deep the roots go and whether that watering was strictly necessary, but looking at the leaves and the apples, it certainly hasn't done any harm. And the developing fruit is looking really great. Not all the apples are perfect. This one's got something on it. And another here that looks to have been eaten by something. But at this stage, overall, the majority of apples are looking in good condition. Over the last few months, I've been really enjoying harvesting the Perpetual spinach and chard. My strategy for keeping the plants going when I went away was to allow the bed to become almost overgrown with lots of big leaves, and that effectively provided almost 100% shelter to the ground. And then I gave the plants a really good watering, and I think that has done the trick. The plants certainly survived the period when I was away, but the first job I did when I came back was to remove all the old leaves to allow plenty of space for the new leaves to form. Now, the old leaves wouldn't have been good to eat. They were discoloured and also really sort of dry and hard to the touch. I'm sure if I'd cooked them, they'd have been really chewy. But in the centre of the plants, new leaves form, and by removing the outer leaves, it allows all the energy to go into forming the new leaves, and I hope to be harvesting those over the next few weeks. To finish with, one of my favourite things down here on the plot are the dahlias I'm growing. Not only do they decorate the plot, but they also make excellent cut flowers. I can bring them home, put them into vases and enjoy them at home. There are 5 dahlia varieties, these large orange stems which were the first variety that I grew. They also have these gorgeous red-orange buds. I really love these flowers. Then last year I added these 2 varieties. Another cactus type, a very light coloured peach variety. The heads are relatively smaller, a little smaller than the size of the palm of my hand. And also this white cactus type. Really lovely blooms, but again relatively small compared to the orange dahlias that I have. And then new for this year, I've added these 2 dahlia varieties. This absolutely stunning purple and white dahlia, and it's producing lots and lots of flowers. The plant is absolutely covered with them. And then in contrast, next to it I have this yellow cactus dahlia variety, and these are the biggest headed dahlia that I'm growing. The flowers, when fully open, are almost the size of the whole of my hand. Now, there are a lot less flowers compared to the purple ones, probably not surprising because of the size of the flower heads. But I have 2 open at the moment, and there seems to be more on the way. And perhaps next year, when the plant is more mature, there'll be even more. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed the tour. If you did, please let me know by hitting the like button or leaving a comment. And for more videos like this, please subscribe to the YouTube channel in the usual way.